Good afternoon and good evening, LinkedIn friends, Value First Nation. Welcome to another episode of Value First Data, talking about the unified customer view with Casey and Klemen. Happy Tuesday.
Same to you and to everyone else.
Happy Tuesday, we're back.
We are back, and I'm addicted to talking about unified customer views and unified views in general. So we're going to continue our conversation. Any thoughts after the conversation we had last week?
I think my overall thoughts on the unified customer view is that it's very powerful, but it always seems to me like this North Star that's just like out of reach. So what I liked about what we did last week is we talked about kind of the first steps, the foundation needed. So I appreciate that this series is bringing that North Star like into reality, into our orbit. I don't know. There's, you can keep going.
That works. That analogy works.
Thanks.
We're going to build this out as we go, if you didn't tell already, folks. But yeah, it hits.
I was asked by my CTO now several times, so how to set up a unified customer view in HubSpot. I said, bear with me.
Give me a couple more weeks.
We started. I'll tell you. I'll guide you when we're done. But we started. We had a lot of concrete implementation questions, discussions. So I'm really looking forward for the next few weeks to, go through that. One is to have a framework, which we I think now have, and now it's really what to do with that, how that is translated from paper to HubSpot or any other system. And this is where the devil is in the detail. I think is expected now to be revealed what we understand and how to go for that. So super excited for that series.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that's like, you kind of highlight the value of just framing the conversation that we need to have to get to data cleanliness, get to using tools like HubSpot in better ways, right? While somehow overcoming all the things that have gotten in the way up to this point. And I was just talking to our friend Trisha about the messaging I'm using on the website. On the About Us page, it says it's focused on AI native transformation, right? And that used to be on the homepage of Value First Team. But once I understood that this message of unified views was resonating specifically with the HubSpot like ecosystem, I then made that the focus of the homepage. And when I said that, and that the purpose is to focus on HubSpot, audience, she read it and didn't see the word HubSpot anywhere. And I was like, that's exactly it, right? Like, if we can keep this conversation away from HubSpot tools, right, and around this unified customer view, these other concepts, I'm just finding it like people, they stay engaged a little bit longer. They care a little bit more. And since we've always skipped over that part, right? That's why we don't get to adoption. We don't get to clean data. We don't get to understanding like everybody's role in this process. So it's been powerful. It is a mountain, like a very high mountain, right, on the horizon. And I think through all of this, it's like however tall the mountain is, but you got to get there. Like if you want AI to work for you, and the beauty of it is now AI can help you get there. Like if you decide you want to go there, AI can help you get there faster and easier than ever before. But you've got to decide that you want to get there. So I think we've exhausted all of the metaphors at this point. So the other thing I'll share, since last week, I've been getting to expose others as we on group calls together with clients, with with prospects, starting to see like it resonate, with the people that we're trying to help. Has been like that happened several times last week after our show. So it's been exciting to feel that. So hopefully this can help others, in the same situation on either side of the conversation. So the majority of what we did last week was just deciding like who's involved, who's in charge, who
We're
must
already
participate.
16% done.
I know. And again, this is the part that everybody skips, and we usually come right to here, right? And so this contact object setup, I don't know that we should go through all of these properties, but I did want to ask, how are these properties and the properties that we need usually decided?
In the original setup, or
like we're going to use HubSpot,
uh-huh.
and the implementer says, okay, what properties do you want?
I don't think this is a question for the other side. This is what the implementator should suggest. Because with that new concept, you need properties that you can't think of. And you don't necessarily know the use of it down the road as someone being onboarded to the value path or unified customer view. So for the time being, I think it's more of the implementator to walk through, just confirm all of those are valid, so we don't create properties you don't need to, but rather guide that process and suggest and explain why you need that. If everyone who we defined should be around don't understand why that is there, it will be then hard to further build on top of that. Sorry, Casey, for taking you the word.
You're muted.
What happened?
You're good now.
Okay, great. Things are fine. Everything's fine, as always. Nailing this. Well, I think, Klemen, you're right. That's how it should be done. But if the question is like, how is it usually done? Then it's, I think, usually done by like, where is the data? Like, where is our CRM data coming from? Are we coming from another CRM? Is this like a set of spreadsheets that we have? In which case, create all values. And especially now that HubSpot's importer, I love that HubSpot's importer makes it easy to create properties. However, in this step in the setup process, it can create so much. Tech debt is my word of the month, but it just creates so much tech debt. And the number of portals I've been in that have job title 1, job title 2, job title use this one, because oftentimes it's because that importer didn't find the right field, and so they created one, or either the importer tool or the importer human didn't find the property, and so they just created a new one.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing if I can bridge all of it together, there's generally a use case. There's a need to implement the system. And what we're describing through this series and through this methodology is that value path and the unified views, using that as the use case, it is going to result in better outcomes. What we've seen and what I'm familiar with is we need to do lead generation, which means we need to send some emails, which means we need to build lists, which means we need to know everybody who went to this trade show for the past 10 years. And where's that spreadsheet? Okay, this is the spreadsheet. We're going to bring that in. Let's name the properties. We need a trade show field, right? So let's add that. Oh, but we have a lot of trade shows. So let's build a drop-down field. No, wait, sometimes they go to more than one trade show. So let's make it multi-select. And like those kinds of things drive which properties. So when you build it out that way, especially if you're talking about marketing and sales, that marketing might need that a lot. But then when sales sees things like that and it doesn't pertain to their job, it creates noise like in the CRM, and that causes less usage. I'll say that is something that comes to mind, but also reporting. Like we need to see this report. So all of a sudden we're building properties just for reporting, right? And the more that you make decisions from that perspective, the harder it's going to be to align all your data and actually get to meaningful views. Any thought? Looks like you have some thoughts there, Klemen.
Yeah. I'm just collecting my mind. Two things that came to my mind. One was recent experience with one of our customers where we were asked to help them build an agent to search for specific data. So they could not integrate another system they have for additional data for researchers, professors at universities. They could not integrate that, but the information, if a professor has a recent research funding, is a super important information to score their leads. Because they could not integrate those two, they asked us, can you help us build an agent which would search for that data? Yes, we built the agent, and then the question was, how do you want to have that data presented in HubSpot? And we took the approach, okay, we'll suggest all 7 different properties we can build for you. And then you as a user should decide how and which of that data is important, how you want to have it presented. But we suggested which properties we can create, all of them, if you need all of them, but think which ones are relevant. So they had a catalog, not just asking what kind of data do you need from that agent, but we said, okay, all those 7 types of data we can easily present to you, which is relevant. So which one will be used in lead scoring further? Which ones do you want to have so we can be efficient? What sales reps need so they can act efficiently? And they followed that, our suggestion. They were not rejecting anything. But the conversation was not what do you need, but hey, this is what we can bring you. What shape and form would be most useful for you, and what you will be reporting on. And the other one, when we are talking about data cleanup, to job title 1, job title 2, and even more importantly, I think it's around the masses around all the location variations, country and city and IP and everything. You have so many different sources throwing in, and we're now taking the approach to have one which is a cleaned version, standard version, so you can, for the time being, you can keep all the others, and with a unified system, we'll be cleaning up all the random typos and everything in one, and this is then the one that should not be changed manually, and the one that will be used in the KPIs and in reporting, and then push to other systems. So let get data messy from LinkedIn. It's a free text of location, and then people get creative where they are, and there's no way you can prevent that. But if the system is suggested as, hey, there will be one which you can trust, and then others can be there as long as you have enough properties. So that's why I think for that implementation, it's fine to start just adding all of the ones that are relevant, and later we can reduce if we don't need one, so we can replace others.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Like, scroll down a little bit, just show these 4, right? Like, where are they in the journey? Like, what are they doing? Engagement level. When did they do it? Last meaningful action. So you can name these properties like whatever, right? But this is what we need to accomplish to make all the other stuff work, right? Who owns it? Like, relationship owner, right? Like, if you don't have these things, inevitably you will fall into these conversations. And I think what I'm landing on is what you've known for a while. Like, if you don't have an aligned goal throughout the business, it is impossible to avoid these tool-focused or department-focused like approaches, because that's the only thing that's tangible, and there's nothing to bring. Like, RevOps tried to do this, right? But often, like, it's just somebody transformed from marketing, from sales, or from service, and now all of a sudden they're RevOps, but they still have that other hat on inevitably, and it just has a way to drive the conversation, and leaders have not been able to step up and solve for this. And that's what I think, like, unified views and unified customer view is a meaningful and alignable like goal, right? Because we've got to find a way to stay away from the tool focused conversation, or you will just keep running into that, right? If you scroll back up a little bit, right? So let's dig into these different groups. So we've got the value path, which is 5 properties, delivery summary, right? So this is explaining like their relationship with you overall. Let's keep going. And like, what's interesting and why I'm confident at the place that HubSpot is right now versus like maybe unified customer view or 360 view has always been like in the marketing lingo, but prior to like 2 years ago or less, it was hard to bring all the data together and get a true 360 degree view. Right now you can, but you have to ask for these like delivery related properties, commercial related properties, engagement throughout the life cycle. So really, we're just trying to help everybody give yourselves permission to actually put this data in HubSpot, like in the first place. It doesn't have to replace every single system, although we are building situations like that, where it's coming in and doing everything but accounting, basically. But when you can just bring the data in, now you actually can achieve like a unified view. And I would love your thoughts, Casey, on this engagement score that says calculated score from signal activity, and some of your recent thoughts you've been having about like lead score of old versus lead score of new.
Yeah. So you and I spoke earlier today, and one thing I'm struggling with right now, just like vulnerably, is creating more documentation and honestly creating more lead scoring content, which has been my whole like bit for a year now. Yeah, a year now. But I've been struggling to like, what do I talk about with lead scoring? And to be honest, it's actually not because I've been talking about it for a year and I'm just like tired and I feel like I've said everything, because I actually don't really think that's true. What I think is more true is that lead scoring, whatever you want to call it, is going to change instead of having us building these scores and putting these, like saying job title is CEO is 10 and whatever. I think we are not far from a world where AI is scoring for us and constantly making changes for us to say, hey, CEO is actually like this week, we're not hitting with CEOs, so their score is going down. And last week we might have been hitting with them, but this week they're just not. So they're just a lower priority, and so on and so forth. And so I like where that also gets cool is like, Chris, you, every time I speak to you, and I have spoken to you twice today, but usually I'm talking to you at least 3 times a day. And every time I speak to you, you have something new that you published on the site or you built or something. Like, the volume of things that you're creating is so high that it's unsustainable. Like, for me, the practitioner, to be like incorporating all of those things in the score constantly, like I just wouldn't be able to keep up with that. Whereas AI would be able to. So those are a lot of thoughts. I said a lot of words.
I have 2 follow-up questions to that. By
Yxio.
creating a lot of new content, you mean it will be hard for you as a human being to incorporate those new links in the scoring system?
Correct.
That's right? Okay.
I mean, I would have to multiple times a day go in. Right now, I would have to go in multiple times a day and add whatever thing Chris created in the last 20 minutes.
So it's a full-time job.
You're on mute.
I want to show an example of this. So if you can scroll up, and we're going to stay on this page. So we're going to open up and we're going to right click open here. Go to Learn and Education Hub. And in the foundation drop down at the top, if you go to the top.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so there's a drop down. At the bottom, it says value for scoring.
Oh, you did it.
Yeah, the Claude did most of it. But
written by Claude and Casey. That's funny.
And like this was a couple hours ago where Casey gave me the material she was working on. And the way that I think people should relate is that this is in relationship to trying to help a client, right? Like this stuff is created. So imagine the old world, like a few months ago, we're making slides. We're trying to explain concepts. We're putting slides together, right? Very manual. Most of the time, those slides don't get put together. And we're trying to like have verbal conversations to create understanding. And then the champions on the other side have nothing to share except an hour-long call recording that none of the other people in their organization want to sit through. Even if they say, oh yeah, send that over. Like, are you going to record this? Cool, send it to me. Like, okay, how many of those get watched? Now we can create these kinds of materials and now measure signals and engagement related to these things, right? But to Casey's point, if we are able to be this agile and create, we're not always going to know exactly where the signals are coming from or exactly how it's going to be called. Like, this page didn't exist 3 hours ago. So did we really take the time to go into HubSpot and then pick the page and add it to the score? Right? And if we want to, like, this is the difference between optimization and transformation. It is starting, at least in my mind, it has for a few months. It's very hard to build traditional lead scoring methodology into this world where AI is always watching and can turn around and give you a really great, clear understanding of what's happening with that contact, right? In a way that, like, let's say, because this is actually, it has happened, right? Like, sales has been doing this for a long time. Not marketing doesn't usually like it, but when they know they need to create something cool, they're good at creating their own PDFs, their own slides. They share it. They feel the engagement, like, in the moment on that sales call. But that's the kind of stuff that never, like, makes it to the CRM, right? So we don't do more of that for the salesperson. They might ask marketing to do that thing for them next time, but all of the context of the situation is lost. So it doesn't hit it as well the next time.
Mhm.
So thanks for bringing this up, Klemen.
I also just, and I'm don't mean to make this a scoring conversation, but I think one,
But it is.
but I am who I am. I think one thing I've heard about, like, a negative of AI is that it's creating, AI slop, the volume of content being created. My friend Trisha, she has complained to me that she's like, so much content is being created that I cannot consume all of this content, and it's, like, frustrating. Like, it feels frustrating. And I think once we all get past that, I think there's a real benefit to all of this content that's being created, because if we look at it, instead of looking at it like, we're just redoing the value first scoring page every couple weeks, and instead we're framing it as, like, we're writing content to match where the world is right now. Like, that Super Bowl where all the lights went out or all the power went out, or whatever. Oreo posted, like, you can still dunk in the dark. And it made a big splash because, like, they did not plan that. So amazing to me that they were able to, like, be quick enough to, like, put something up, put that out there in that time. But what if all of our content was like that? All of our content captured the moment. So yeah, we're creating more content than ever before. And yeah, you might not see, you may have never seen the previous 2 versions of the scoring page, but it doesn't matter because we're on version 3, and version 3 speaks more to where the tool is today, where the industry is today, and everything like that. I don't know. That's my rant.
I mean, I don't know if you remember, Klemen, but when we started this journey, it was value first communication. And we talked about how important it is to be timely and relevant.
Yeah.
Right? So we're coming, at full circle here in terms of, if you know that you need to be, like, if you're timely and relevant, you're more likely to get the engagement that you want, to start the conversations that you want, to find high quality opportunities that are likely to close. Then you have to create, like, you have to be ready to be timely and relevant, whether it's content or whether it's people hanging out on LinkedIn, just being a part of the conversation, right?
Yeah.
And then as we started this series, we related it to loop marketing, right? Which is a whole system designed to help you do that at scale, right? And so, yeah, of course, like scoring and the way we measure that stuff, that needs to change as well. So hopefully, like, as I get better at kind of putting all this stuff together and like creating this foundation to, connect all the dots, it's literally continuing to build on all of the same principles that we've been talking about. And again, it's going to sound like a broken record. All I just talked about, I don't expect you to go and watch all the value first communication episodes, all the value first data episodes. And if you can just believe and trust that unified customer view has a way of forcing that stuff all together. Because if we're talking about, you need to show up in that way to have valuable conversations, you need that view of that person that helps you be timely, be relevant, fully understand what's going on in the world, and also how it relates to your world, right?
Yeah.
So I think we can go back to the other tab. And as we look at all this, like, that's what a score is supposed to do, right? Tell you that kind of stuff, like wade through all the complexity and try to tell you as quickly as possible, looking at the score, all of this background, right? They couldn't have gotten to a score of 90 if they didn't meet all of these criteria. And now that criteria is constantly shifting, like every day.
The second question I had around all that, as it is changing daily, this week CEOs don't get 5 points, they only get 3 points. A practical question, as someone who is responsible for reporting, if that scoring system changes so much, which means the definition of when one is going from audience to research, or from researcher to hand raiser, or from even sooner, and traditional MQLs to SQL, and handoff from sales to marketing, if that scoring is changing daily, weekly, what are your thoughts on the reporting? Because then the reporting is changing daily, weekly.
So I don't know what Chris's thoughts are. Here are my thoughts. I mean, I think in this, and Chris might actually disagree, that's why I'm being weird. I think when we train this AI agent, or when we're training the AI on the score, we're gonna have to have a goal. Ideally, the goal is closed won opportunities, closed won deals. So when we're measuring, we would be measuring towards that. However, we have to, at the end, we have to look at leading indicators as well. What I'd prefer to look at is like booked demos. For many organizations, that's like a leading indicator. Opportunities opened, things like that. What I think we have to get away from is measuring the number of MQLs as the indicator, as the goal. If our goal is to hit 50 MQLs a day, I mean, AI is just, humans and AI are just going to like get us to 50 each day. And that's not going to be the quality. But I do think with this, there's something, you have to be transparent. And oftentimes I'm having these conversations now when I'm building scores. I'm like, look, we might have fewer MQLs. That's kind of intentional because we want our MQLs to actually become close won opportunities.
No, we're aligned. It's not anything new in terms of like the story around SEO and traffic that we couldn't stop hearing about last year with HubSpot losing 80% of their traffic. But it was not hard for them to spin that as a good thing, because guess what? Conversion rates went through the roof for that 20% because they were supposed to be there. They wanted to be there. It wasn't I guarantee a lot of that 80% at some point was labeled as an MQL, right? And it's so obvious when you look at the data and start attaching it to goals like revenue, like closed won, like speed of like sales velocity, right? And it's starting to resonate with ways to measure this, right? Because we're using different words like audience, researcher, and hand raiser, but still, like, it's far away from where we've been. So then we look at things like scoring. How do we also keep that from where we've been? Like, if it relates to a human, like health scoring of their interest and their trust in your business. And these are things that in a different world, it has, like, how in the world would you measure those things, right? But now that we have help from AI, looking at transcripts, you can see words that are used, sentiment analysis, moods, like how people react to things. All of that goes into like trust analysis, right? Do they actually have this problem? Or are they just like nodding and smiling during the conversation? We're getting to that point where AI can watch videos and understand that kind of stuff. And by the end of this year, this like video watching AI will be built in to a lot of these systems, right? And so we have to give it the guardrails, and that's what we're showing here. Like, the guardrails is the data structure and the goals, like, for the business, right? Because I guarantee instead of 50 MQLs, if you said we need 50 conversations, right? That's going to be a completely different outcome, and probably, for the better. So I'm interested in checking out some of these other object categories that are in the upper left. Because just note, while these are properties on the contact record, they got to come from somewhere. And in the past, we've asked our sales team to input all this data that we think is going to be helpful. When we have it in other objects that are nearby, you can automatically, fill in this data. Instead of saying, like, for delivery, we need the salesperson is responsible for the status of the project because they're the account manager and they got to call up different departments to confirm the status, right? That's just kind of stuff that hasn't worked in the past. So we're not trying to recreate that. And that's where these other objects, it's not just contacts, companies, and deals anymore. I would love your thoughts on how we tackle this in terms of, we got the big three on the top. And so interest is what we're saying is like a renaming of the lead object, because we care about interest in that moment. But outside of that, like, it's just a really complex conversation. This is why it's important to have the right people in the room in terms of like the teams that you got to get involved. Like, don't have the salesperson telling you how the delivery object like needs to be built out. But all of this stuff can inform and create much more relevant scores, the kinds of scores that we're talking about, right?
Yeah. The reason why I started asking that was, relates to the conversations I'm having with RevOps people, where I see, for the better, we continuously update the scoring, so we can really, score high the good fit ones. In a big organization, you have the planning, you have the goals for the year, and you compare that goals and the KPIs to the past 2-3 years. And in the past 2-3 years, you're reporting you were having 500 NQLs a month, and we got to 10 million. Now we are saying we need 50 MQLs to get to 15 million. So this is, a huge change in the mind of not only the RevOps person, but the whole organization. How marketing is measured and, commissioned. That's why you need to have the big guys, the leaders in the room, because all that requires how company works. And I'm with you. But I think this is a really important conversation to have, because this takes along not only changing the names and creating 19 more properties. It's changing how the company works, the processes, the relationships between teams, which is a much harder and bigger change for the organization than just creating 100 more properties, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad. Not really. I feel bad that this like turned into a scoring conversation, but I do think it shows like the future of all of this, and how value first kind of, because we're talking about this in a scoring framework, but this also has to do like, how does AI tell us where they are in the value path? There's AI certainly going to do better at that than we are, because we're probably going to be optimistic about them. And the same thing is true when we are doing scores. We have these, I always call them like aspirational scores. Like when we start scoring our CEOs, even though our CEOs are never part of our like core buying committee, because we want them to be. And I mean, the same is true, all over the place. And when you talk about like, okay, we need to increase MQLs because we need to increase sales. How are we increasing MQLs? Because if all we're doing is lowering the threshold for an MQL, that's not going to double the sales. That's just going to waste some people's time. And, when we look at our value path stages, if we just lower our threshold for researcher, that's not going to get us more researchers. It's just going to change.
Misrepresent audience.
Misrepresent is a better word.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, and it's really easy to get alignment on this. Like, the first step is understanding. Like, second step is like having the guts to change a goal away from number of MQLs, right? Especially when people are compensated based on these kinds of KPIs. But starting with the understanding, like when you can use a word like researcher, like you don't get to say the other person is, oh, they're all of a sudden researching, right? Because they're not. They haven't shown you any kind of evidence to suggest that's where they are. And if you can give AI the guardrails, then it can actually, help you do those things in objective ways, right? Also, because it can create an objective conversation and an objective view, teams stop pointing the finger at each other based on what may or may not have what went into the score, right? I would love for you to click on association verification if you can.
Yeah.
Yep. This only works if you get this part right. And we have to go beyond making sure every deal has a contact and company associated. And that's the only thing that we're doing to make sure. That's been the shortcut I've seen. And it still amazes me. Kind of not really. We just have to get better at talking about this part. The best person to confirm this part are the people closest to the other human, right? And so often we're trying to automate associations in HubSpot because everybody sees it as a tedious activity when it makes the rest of the system, work. So I just wanted to highlight, it's great to put objects up and properties in places and make sure you have the data in. But this part is so, so important. And if I could ask any sales rep to do one thing manually, it is making sure the associations are correct. We could go for a while here.
And we will.
We will. We're not done yet.
Okay.
I don't think we made it very far today, but that's because everyone sent me on a side quest that I couldn't resist. I've been telling people on calls that I'm the personality hire. That I'm just there for the bit.
Everybody's got a role. It's all good. But I think it inevitably gets to the scoring conversation because when you get all this data right, you want to be able to learn very quickly the state of any human in your system. And if we can do this correctly, you can get to some very meaningful scores that the whole team trusts, that you're not arguing about, and creates this really objective view very quickly that is super complex underneath, but it takes away a lot of complexity if you can get there. And at the end of the day, that's why a lot of leaders turn to HubSpot. They heard about lead scoring and the promise that is very rare to see in practice. Now we're suggesting that you can actually get there. But it does require you doing the work of sitting down and saying what's important to this organization. Right.
And I feel we'll have more of lead scoring conversations in the next sessions. Why? Because this is how we go from, we'll just have a unified customer view for the sake of unified customer view, but scoring is one of the use cases of unified data. This is one manifestation of unified data. You have the scoring you can trust and you can use, and then sales will not complain about, hey, that MQL is really not useful. I just wasted a month of my time following up. If you get unified customer view and data right, then you can trust the forecasting. You don't need to spend 5 days preparing the board of director presentation. You can just open up data. So everything we're now talking about, unified customer view, the data beneath it, enabling unified customer view, it's not just for the sake of clean data, but it's really enabling the organization to use that data for the right lead scoring, for reliable lead scoring, for forecasting, for reporting, and and everything. So we'll get to lead scoring again for sure.
And at some point, maybe we start calling it value first scoring, or health scoring. I'm excited. We've got an unboxing coming up with the scoring product managers at HubSpot for lead scoring and health scoring.
Mhm.
So that's when I'm going to start making the case for them to remove certain words. But it really does set a good boundary. It sets a possible boundary to help differentiate what has been versus like where we need to go.
I'm trying to refer to it just as like scoring in hopes that that doesn't trigger Chris as much.
I bet we land on health scoring, because whether it's the health of people in the beginning of the process and their interest levels, their trust, health for them as a customer in that relationship, or even the health of an opportunity, like when you get to deal scoring and stuff like that, you're really trying to understand very quickly, like, is this situation good for the business right now? And I think we'll get there. But that's also why we're unboxing like both sides. And that's why you can see HubSpot bringing these things together, right? It's not rocket science that we need to care about people throughout the journey. So excited to do that with that team. All right. So I guess next week we will get to our number 3 section of the playbook.
We're nailing this person.
Are you able to click on that part yet?
No.
Okay.
For next show, I can click through all those.
Just like you planned.
It allows me.
Go build this, Klemen. You have to go build it now to check off all these boxes.
And tell us how it went.
Yeah. I'll give you a shortcut. It's already built. In the Value First HubSpot. So
I can just tick the boxes and trust you. That's there.
Yeah. There you go. But that next section is all about, okay, we built the system. Now people have to learn it, learn what's happening, build capability within the organization. So I look forward to digging into that with you both.
Likewise.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see everybody next week.
Good one.